introduce our first panelist and dive right into the foundations of non-combat encounters. All right, Crispy, welcome back. And who are you? What content do you create? And what is your tabletop RPG experience?
All right, so I'm Crispy. These days, I'm known for hot drinks and cool jazz. I caught the role-playing bug back in the mid 1980s, and I've been involved since then. My gateway drug was Robotech RPG, and that just branched out into all the Platinum products, and that's really been my background. Is more, I didn't get introduced to D&D really until I was in university, and that was a while ago. So at any rate, I produce content where I am an absolute fanatic for role play. I call myself a bit of an aggressive role player, and you
Did you beat people up at the table?
That's right. I'm aggressive with it. I'm one of these guys that thinks that most of the issues in your game can be solved by staying in character, and that's the style that I promote, and I try to show that. I post games, I react to games, but trying to show that you can actually do this and try to be in character as much as possible. So that's who I am. You'll find me on YouTube at Table Runner. That's the handle for the channel. And this is not my first time on Game Master Insights. In its previous iteration, I think I was on a couple times. So thank you for having me back. I haven't burned every bridge, it would seem. We'll see if we can arrange that by the end of this session. But yeah.
Well, I should dive right into the question here, but I will say so far, I think we have a 4D guy on like every scheduled show so far. So yeah. There have been some comments about that, regarding like 40 on every show. I'm like, well, if they sign up and they've got a perspective that's diverse and unique for the show,
perspective, absolutely.
That's what this is about. Am I a 4D guy? I think I made it very clear. I'm not. I lean in that direction, but I'm not. Yeah. With that said, real quickly here, Squirrel-Hermit, if you don't have YouTube open, but you're still getting echo, that is very odd. I don't know how to fix that. We weren't getting it before the live stream, but it tells me that something from the live stream is bleeding through. But okay, yeah, go ahead and drop out, come right back in. We'll start with Crispy, and hopefully we start slowly. Give him time to hear what you're saying here. But we do have to continue on here. Yeah, but one of the things, and I'm going to say this now before I ask the first question, we are looking for more panelists. We're looking for diverse panelists. I have a system that I'm going to use, which means, yes, you're going to see some faces more than other faces, but that's intentional. We have to have a bit of consistency. People like consistency, but I also want more faces on here. I'm particularly looking for people from the Bro-SR Bronstein side, and somebody as a 5e, as they like to say in my circles, a 5e blue hair side. Yeah, I'm honestly looking for that, because we're going to have an episode coming up in March, particularly on Grognard play and new school play, so to speak. And what better way to have that than to have somebody who's in the Grognard sphere and somebody who's in the 5e mentality, or maybe something like the Fiasco game, whatever, sphere. And to kind of, I don't want to say duke it out, this is a discussion, but you get what I'm saying. So I don't care what your background is, as long as you can have some sort of presence on the live stream. We're looking for you to be here. Yes, you must be on camera. All these rules are on the Discord, but please check out the Discord and come join us. There might be a panel spot for you someday. Now, with all of that, let's ask the first question here. All right, Crispy.
Yeah.
When you create exploration obstacles, social classes, or puzzles, what elements make them feel like real encounters? Oh, I can't wait to hear the puzzle answer in this one. Make them feel like real encounters instead of just filler. And how do you ensure that each type highlights a different character strength?
So my take on this, and this is part of the reason why I signed up for this panel, is because I think the strength of what we'll call non-combat encounters is when they arise organically from the fictional world. The more you, as a game master, the more this feels less as a bolt-on, or okay, now it's this, as a distinct an identifiable encounter that I've designed, I think we've lost a little bit of the magic that can happen. So my suggestion when it comes to these non-combat encounters is try to reframe this. Reframe it not so much as this is a combat encounter I'm designing versus this is a non-combat encounter. Instead, what I tend to favor and what I recommend people try is erase that distinction completely. Think more in terms of conflict. So the conflict, I think we could all agree, or I hope we can all agree, that you could sit down and decide that, hey, this is a non-combat encounter, and your players can turn that into a combat encounter faster than you can. Oh, where's my branch? Oh, no. No, guys, you're not supposed to do this. I advocate a style of gaming, and I think that you could do this no matter what your style is, where you're not trying to pigeonhole players into, okay, this is a puzzle. Listen, puzzles can be dangerous. You've got to be careful with puzzles because
I punched the puzzle.
Exactly. Could your players turn that puzzle into a combat encounter? You know what? I bet they could. I bet they could just decide we're going to just kill someone. There'll be some bloodletting, and that's how we're going to get over this puzzle. So really, my suggestion on this first one, to make it feel real instead of filler, focus in on your job as the game master really is to be thinking constantly about the world, how the world reacts, but not just that. Let's get more specific. You're thinking about your characters in that world, not the players' characters, your characters. What are they after? That should naturally lead to this conflict. And conflict, it's a little bit of a shortcut, Max, if conflict just means roll initiative. Conflict should be, that to me is like, okay, well, this is getting uncomfortable. I'm not quite sure where it's going to go. All right, guys, let's just go roll initiative. Just roll initiative. It can be a little bit of an escape hatch to just go directly to take a conflict, whether that's an exploration or a negotiation or, heaven forbid, a puzzle. If it were something like that, let it stew for a bit, Max. I think game masters should just let that be. Don't immediately go to violence. It can and should be always on the table, because why not? But I don't think that we do ourselves favors as game master. We don't do ourselves a favor when we focus in as distinct elements of. So rather than having distinct elements, I much prefer to just think in a more high level term. There's going to be things happening, whether it's weather related, whether it's map related, whether it's character related, my characters that are going to be in opposition, or at least could be potentially in opposition to what the player characters want. There we go. That's what you're thinking of, rather than saying, okay, at this particular tavern, the non-combat encounter or what have you is this person here who's going to do this thing so long as the players do this other thing. That, I think, is too limiting. And I think that it's easier to stay at that higher level of where is the higher level conflict that naturally arises. Not filler at all. The second part of your question is, well, what about the different character strengths? Because Mar Hawkman, am I saying that wrong? Mar Hawkman and I might have completely different characters than Max's character. And let's say I'm just I hit things with a stick. So everything looks like a great target to hit things with a stick. And Mar Hawkman, he's the face of the group. He's going to talk it out. And Max is going to try to seduce it. So of those three, how are we going to do this? Well, I would say as a game master, it's not your role according to my view of things, it's not your role to try to tailor the world to fit the player character's abilities. What I would prefer is each of us as three players in the game, are already thinking in terms of what our character can do. So I'm already thinking, you know what? There's got to be a violent solution to this somehow. And Mar Hockman saying, I could probably talk our way through this. And Max Liao is unbuttoning his shirt. And all of that's happening without me as the game master saying, okay, Mar Hockman, here's your moment. This is your moment. No. I think players can already bring their moment if they're thinking of what my character can already do, and they're already in that space. I also would and I've been talking a lot, Max, and I apologize in advance. The other thing I would say is that when it comes to puzzles, because you said, oh, I want to hear what Crispy has to say about puzzles. I take a slightly different approach than some games that I've seen and some game masters out there, which, and so I'm not saying this is wrong, guys, but I would caution game masters about of conflating player skill and character skill. And when it comes to puzzles, for example, there was recently an actual play that was put on by the Dungeon Dudes and Deborah Ann Wool. And the first part of their actual play was the players in an escape room. Now, is that character ability or is that player ability? The players are trying to do some things in an escape room, but they're actually their characters. My caution when it comes to puzzles is I think that you want to be very careful about making the game about player versus character skill. So in other words, I want to be able to play an idiot character. Now, I have been in the hobby, as I've been bragging about my 40 years. I've been in the hobby long enough. Exactly. I love your shirt, by the way. I've been in the hobby long and yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Love it. So where I understand the tropes, I've been playing enough that I've done all the classic mistakes. But Mike, I want to be able to play a character who's still wet behind the ears. When you introduce puzzles to your group, I think it's unfair to the players to make the resolution of the puzzle dependent on the player skill. I think that you should be able to lean into the mechanics of the system you're using so that the characters can display their abilities rather than the players showing just how well they've mastered the game. Do you understand what I'm saying with that, Max? Anyway, I'll shut up.
I do. Just I'm supposed to kind of keep quiet in this, and I should, but I want to do a quick follow because it's directly related to what you said. Since you and I both have the 40 years behind us, and I'm sure you completely understand this. And I'm not saying this is an attack. I'm really curious as to what you say to the folks out there that I know are going to be in the comments if I don't ask this question.
Oh, I've already been called a Condor DM Twitter critter. It's what somebody called me already in the comments.
Wow,
right
I missed that one. Okay.
Bring
Oh
it.
no. Okay, no, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. It was about me asking for diverse people on the
totally.
on the show, but
diversity hire right here. Right here.
The question I have is like, what about the people who play it or want to play in the old school way? We'll just call it where, let's be honest, in original D&D, player skill was more important than character skill. Now I'm a Hickman Manifesto guy, so I absolutely lean in your direction.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a school of thought out there that specifically says nope, player. This is about where players playing a game. We're not LARPing at the table or whatever terms folks want to use.
Different style for me. So I would just say that's not harmonious with what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the ability to role play a character different than me. And I enjoy that experience to say, hey, I'm going to step into the skin of someone else rather than just playing myself with slightly different numbers that I add to the D20. So that's my perspective. If you're watching me and you're of the opinion that no, I really, really, really want this to be about player skill, then that's fine. It's just a completely different experience than what I'm seeking. So perhaps one of the other panelists will be able to speak more to that, engaging player skill It's just not my particular leaning in the hobby, if that makes
I got
sense.
you. All right. Well, yeah. So again, I probably shouldn't have interjected that, but I just wanted to piggyback on what you're saying there. But yeah, guys, jump in. This is conversation time for you, Squirrel Hermit. It sounds like everything's good. I'm not hearing myself. Can you do me a favor though? Just talk for like, I don't know, 5-10 seconds. Say hello again or something, just so we got.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Hello, 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 hello. Hi.
All
Can you
right,
hear me
and
okay?
I'm gonna talk right now while you're doing that. Okay, it doesn't sound like we have any echo as of yet, so it looks like you're good to go. Whatever that issue was is fixed. I don't know if you got to hear what he said though. Uh,
I got the gist of it. I know
okay.
I'm spelling what he's stepping in. I got it.
All right,
I
cool.
got it.
So
I got it.
conversation time. So go ahead and either, like I said, give your answers to the same question or react to what he was saying, or whatever you guys want to do. The floor is open.
Mm. Well, my first thing was the idea of the distinction between having players break a puzzle and solve a puzzle. This is something that I've seen come up in a lot of things is that the players for some reason or other might not perceive the puzzle in the spirit in which it was intended. Like one game I was in as a player, um w- the DM would have us do locked doors in some sort of enchanted temple where we were physically not allowed to break anything. Of course, I'm going to check every single door to see if I can light it on fire because my character is good at lighting things on fire, anyways. But that was one of those things that was kind of railroady the way that came off is because the fact that there's only one right way to solve anything,
Yeah.
and he's not going to let us until we figure out what it was. And he apparently found that rather frustrating, and after a few sessions, he kind of quit because he failed to understand the whole thing of, like, no plan survives contact with the enemy. It's like, well, one thing that's a great example, that's a historical thing, the labors of Hercules from Greek mythology. He did not do any of them the way that he was told he was supposed to do them. Clean the Aegean stable by redirecting a river to wash all of the dung out of the building. He literally flooded the building in order to clean it in one day. The Gordian knot. He didn't untie the Gordian knot. He cut it in half with his sword. And players in a TTRPG will do exactly that same sort of stuff. So it's like try to force people to find the one true right answer to a puzzle. I don't like that idea. It's like having them find a way to go about it. It's like, well, like for example, it's like what he was saying about talking to people and coercing them into doing things for you. It's like you as the GM might have it set up said that this NPC has a specific thing you're expecting the players to try to bribe him with. The players might bribe him with something else. I mean, that sort of thing comes up quite a lot. And
Yeah.
my main thing here is actually just like make it so that the players have an actual thing that they earn by doing the puzzle. That example I was mentioning from that game I was in is that the puzzle was just to get into the next room. The reward was getting to the next room. We actually ripped apart some of the puzzles and stole the pieces of the puzzle because of the fact that the rooms had no loot.
I'm okay. Just to be clear, I don't think it's a bad idea to have non-evident solutions, like a puzzle that doesn't have an obvious answer. I also am okay with things that are just mysterious,
Mhm.
and I think those are great. Those are great opportunities for conflict. But this doesn't make sense. I remember running a game once, and in the middle of a jungle is a tall ship. It's just sitting there. How did it get there? Don't know. Is there anyone on it? No, it's empty. And it was interesting as it well, what there was a mystery involved with no completely evident and obvious solution to it. So I don't mind puzzles at all. What I agree with you completely, Mr. Hawkman, is that if you design or you download or whatever, or you pay for someone's Patreon that gives you 100 puzzles, and then you just find one that's great and put it in without any respect to the world as it already exists in your campaign, it's unlikely to feel organic, or it's unlikely to feel like it's part of that world. So I would be cautious about importing puzzles that just, oh, here's a list of 100 puzzles and I'm just going to grab that puzzle. I'd also be very, very cautious if your puzzle has one and only one solution. That can lead to deadlock. But the other thing too that I don't like about okay, guys, here's a room, there's 4 levers, you have to pick these levers. What are you really doing? All you're really doing is you're slowing down the progression in that world. So you're okay. In your example, Mr. Hawkman, your game master had the puzzle to get into the next room. Now, was there ever a possibility in that game that you could just say, you know what, this just isn't worth it? These rooms have been empty. We're just gone. Or
Well, that was funny.
You had to stay there and do the thing to get into the other room to do the other thing, and then you didn't really have the agency as a player to say, my character is just not into this. I'm out.
Well, that was the funny thing though with this particular one is that he set up this particular dungeon in such a pedantically linear fashion that he just didn't think about the possibility of having more than one way to go anywhere, so that there was literally only one direction you could go. There was no go around it because there was no other way of going anywhere. Like, oh yeah, like the next room after this, the one with the like door that we weren't allowed to burn down was a room where the only way to proceed was to open an obviously trapped chest. Literally everyone said in the party was like, "Yeah, that's an obvious trap." Do I want to open the chest? No. But like the GM was, it's like he set it up. It's like the only way that we could get could progress the story was to open the chest knowing that it was an obvious trap and find out what the obvious trap was, which in this case was having the floor collapse under our feet and have all of us fall into a magic portal.
The dude just needs to write a book. It's not a game. There's no agency in there. Like my friend Max has said in the past, just write a book.
As players, we actually kind of sort of had fun with it, but not in the way he was expecting. And he got very frustrated by the process because he realized that, oh, wait, we are having fun by breaking things, not by doing what he wanted us to. But then there's also the fact that when he put in like boss fights where you actually fight the boss properly, we would just curb stomp them somehow.
Well, and I would say when talking about conflict, whether that's something that on the onset is likely to be violent, so we'll call it a combat encounter or a non-combat encounter. When thinking about conflict, my own practice, and those GMs out there that are watching this, maybe give this a shot. Don't design the solution, just the starting state. What is the starting state of the conflict? Because if you've designed a solution to this conflict already, you've already plotted it out. You storyboarded it to the point where, okay, so here's what they can do to get to what they want. And it's just a matter of the players fumbling along until they find the path that I have previewed to get around this particular conflict. I don't think that leads to memorable experiences. I, as a game master, and I'm sure other game masters feel the same way, like to be surprised by what the players end up doing with their characters. I like the surprise. I won't have the surprise if the only way that the game can progress beyond this particular conflict is if they do what I already want them to do. That's not going to be a surprise. And it risks becoming tedious for the players as they fumble along trying to find the one way out of my mystery box. So what I would suggest, just start with the starting state of affairs. This is the start of the conflict. I spend a lot of time thinking about what the opponents are working towards. What do they want? The players can then, they'll interact with the conflict through their characters and their characters' motivations. Those characters are seeking a solution to their own problems. We'll see where it goes from there. I like we'll play to find out what is going to happen here. And who knows? Like that's it, we don't know where it's going to go. Could it be something that is combat related? Yeah. Or it could be a negotiation. Or I already mentioned Max taking his shirt off. It could be, it could go in very strange and exciting, Max, exciting ways. But I want that. I want to have that. Hey, this is surprising. I like the surprise. When I'm running the game, I like the surprises of when I'm playing in a game.
Well,
So don't go so far as to the solution. Just start with the starting state, and then go from there.
in that regard, like the first actual boss he threw at us was a puzzle boss that he had designed under the assumption that I'm not really sure. I don't actually know. Sorry, this was actually the second boss, but whatever. At one point, he threw a puzzle boss at us where he was expecting one of us to do something specific because it was something that we'd done in non-combat encounters repeatedly as a boss that he presented as someone who's too powerful for us to actually fight them properly, and that it ended up almost being a TPK because the person who he was expecting to do the thing thought it was a stupid idea and did literally everything else. Because again, it's like, yeah, he didn't really like have a plan B, and was also not improvising plan Bs. Because
Didn't
like that,
feel
that
very
was what one. Hmm?
didn't end up feeling very organic per se.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you need a plan B, and if you don't have a plan B, you need to come up with a plan B before the party um runs out of ideas.
Yep.
Because like one analogy that popped into my head was uh having a puzzle where it's like you walk across a room from the entrance to a saloon to the bar. And if you walk the right path, you pass the encounter, and if you don't, you fail. Well, mm, that's just not something most people would consider an interesting puzzle. They're
No.
not going to think of it that way, especially if you don't present it as something where you are basically trying to provide a password to a lock. Like that kind
Yeah.
of puzzle solving just doesn't work for me. I mean, so what are your things?
One thing I have done, I don't do all the time. I agree with both of you, and I especially lean towards Crispy. You know, a good chunk of role playing is you're trying to get into the mindset of the village idiot, even though you're not the village idiot. And the roots, as Max said, player skill versus character skill. So on in some games, I've used this. Okay, it's a puzzle book or whatever, and you look it up and you keep something that's succinct to whatever the setting is. I'm a medieval nut, so and I'll give that to the players, and then I have this, which is an egg timer. It's 2 minutes 35 seconds. I'll flip it over and go, all right. If you guys can figure it out, if you think you have the answer, if you're unsure of the answer you came up with, now you can roll your player skill. You have that option. It's there. And it's fun for the table. And puzzles and whatnot, as far as non-combat encounters, they come up rarely at my table. It's just something like, because it doesn't happen often. So That's one way to approach it. You find, or even if it's a maze, even though they're not actually in a maze. Like here's a simple maze. Pass it around the table. You got 2 minutes 35 seconds. Go, or you can roll.
Yeah. That's one of those things that's interesting. Is like you, motivation to solve the puzzle is something that's very important. And if the players don't have a motivation to solve the puzzle, I mean,
No, then they'll just roll and they'll take the results.
yeah.
If they have the motivation and they try and they fail, well, we'll consider that your die roll.
Hmm.
And something simple that can be done in 2 minutes, 35 seconds, 2.5 minutes. Okay. And it does add a little flavor to that type of non-combat encounter. And same with traps. Even if there's a trap. It's clearly trapped. I got a simple puzzle, or do you want a die roll? I don't use traps a lot. Something like that. Every now and again, they're like, you know what? Yeah, give me the mace, and they'll sit there and if they get it, all right. Well, then you rolled. You succeeded on. So it's a rough, analogous, tangible thing of what the characters are doing. Picking the lock, like, ooh, well, you're going through this maze. You're picking that lock. Or you're disarming the trap, or that can be fun. That's a tangible way to have fun with that type of non-combat encounter.
Oh, there was one thing that I'd written down as something I wanted to mention. Is that one thing that you can have as an incentive is for the players to get an NPC as an ally rather than having them just not want to talk to you. And it's like that would actually be a valid reason to have a dialogue puzzle where the players need to figure out how to convince the person to help them. It's like that, or not. If
Well, no, I'm
that,
actually glad
or
you brought it back to that point because we've been focusing a lot on puzzles, so for the majority of this, and I think it's because people have opinions about puzzles. I know I do. When it comes to that, you guys have said a lot of good stuff. We do have to wrap up this part of the segment here in just a few minutes. There isn't a lot of chat to read, so I'll give you a few more minutes to discuss this. But a couple things based on what you guys said, because I want your guys' take on this. First of all, in my experience, puzzles are a way for a game master to feel more intelligent than the players. That's been my experience going all the way back to 1983. Is this typically some Mensa kid that goes, or somebody who just read Lord of the Rings and wants to do that to everybody? Ha, I'm smarter than you. And if somebody put in chat, I shouldn't do this now, but I'm going to. And welcome, Dungeon Minister. Good to see you. Says the word written on the dungeon while overthinking. That's so much this guy. If you put the simplest puzzle out there, 2 times 2 equals. I'm going to be stop. Because I've been in groups with game masters that know all the puzzle books, and this is back in the 80s mostly, but know all the puzzle books and know all the little tricks and whatnot. And I've got them here. So I will never look for the simple solution. Never. I can't. It'd break my brain to do that. And then going on with more what you guys said, I believe that that a good dungeon MacGuffin. Let's use the word MacGuffin. A good MacGuffin has 3 solutions. Generally speaking, combat, interaction, stealth, or puzzle, or whatever. But you've got 3 different ways of doing it. I think that puzzles should have 3 solutions: break it, solve it, or ignore it. And by ignoring it, you have to pick one of the other ones, so to speak, right? So I think puzzles can be used, but they should not be used as a matter of like, oh, look at me, I'm so much smarter than my players. Oh my God, they're so dumb. Because you guys are right. It turns it into player, I don't want to say agency. It turns into the players playing the game instead of the characters being part of the world. And then the last thing I had is, this kind of brings it back. Oh, by the way, Crafty, I really like your concept of everything being conflict. And I say that because one of the things I love that Free League does in its game is it calls it social conflict, even though it's just a negotiation. But the entire process that Free League has in its games, like Mutiny Zero, Forbidden Lands, so forth, is called social conflict. And I think that is a good way of looking at it. But finally, last thing I've got here, and then you guys can address this however you want. We got about 5 minutes before I have to kind of move on, so don't drone on too long here. Is what do you say to a new game master who wants to create an encounter, and this doesn't have to be a puzzle, this could be a social encounter, this could be something we didn't really talk much about, which is an exploration encounter, so to speak, who wants to encourage, and this goes back to last week's show, a player to kind of come out of his shell. So he really does design it for the player, maybe to play the character, but for the player. Like, I really want Crispy to just really grab, because I know he's good at this stuff and I want him to grab this or whatever. Crispy, since this, I know I said a lot there and I'm not supposed to, but I don't care. I did. But it's your segment still. So please, you start with the answering and then go ahead.
Okay. So just to clarify the question, you want to know how to bring me out or my character out?
Well, see, as a game master, and I'm speaking as somebody who's done this, but also I'm trying to be diverse when I say this. I know you guys are heavily focused on the character,
Yeah.
and I would say that's still bringing the player out, just in character format. But whether it's that or you just want the player to be a little more proactive at the table, you want them to feel encouraged, and maybe it's just a passive personality. Maybe it's somebody that just doesn't like to speak up. Again, very reminiscent of last week's episode. But you're like, you know what? I'm gonna tailor this encounter so that this is just a perfect time for this person to express himself.
So the way I do this, and the way I would suggest a new game master do this, is spend some time creating a very believable character of your own, and then give them a motivation that aligns with that player's motivation, and have them. So introduce this person in the world that is and they could be a patron, and they could be an ally or something that's going to be like, you know what, we're going to resonate, and then have that happen via a character that exists in the fictional world, so that the player feels like, oh yeah, this is someone I'm either I can relate to this particular character. So when you're designing the encounter, which I don't love the language around that. I just think, when I'm thinking of the conflict, is there someone that I can put in to this world that's going to have similar ambitions and motivations as that player that I want to draw out? And then the only thing I would say to the game masters out there, you can do what you think is going to be engaging to that player. Be prepared for it to fall flat. Because I don't think that your job is to push a rope up a hill. It's not your job to do that. Your job is to create something that all of the players can believe, as we can all pretend that this fantasy world or sci-fi world or whatever it is, this fictional world exists. So I'm going to cut my comments short there because I know we don't have a lot of time, but for this segment, but that's what I would say, Max, is that, look, try to create a very believable, flawed character in the world that's going to have an intersection at some point with that player's character, so that they can feel like, oh yeah, but I don't think that it's important that you should be forcing that to happen. The more you try to force it, the worse it can potentially be, because now it's starting to be, oh, okay, I can see this is the NPC that I'm supposed to be in. And then that's not believable. It'll feel like filler. It doesn't feel like it's, you're obviously tailoring this to me, rather than it have just happen organically.
Guys, any follow-up?
I answered the question, but I'm happy with what I said.
No, you're good. Again, this is supposed to be a conversation, so I'm trying to shut up. I already said too much as it is.
I agree. It can be rough to get that, the organically, to happen. It can be rough. So don't feel bad if it doesn't take root every time or immediately. But once it does, look out, folks.
Well, and I think that you're absolutely right, Squirrel-Hermit. What we do as game masters is we create a world that feels full. and then we'll be surprised ourselves with those with the characters within that world that the players resonate with. It will probably not be the ones that we thought they would resonate with. So don't spend too much time trying to force that horse to drink, right?
Yeah, run with it and let the players till the earth and plant the fields as they see fit. Make sure the land is fertile. The
Make a
soil
fertile land. Exactly, sir. And when you have a fertile land, it's easier to react to what your players are doing. So I prefer to tell new GMs, look, don't worry so much about forcing things. Think about a conflict and then react to how we, the players, engage with the conflict. Just react and react in ways that you think are believable. And then after the session, we'll talk about it and say, hey, yeah, so why, we can talk, well, this is why I did this, because I felt like it was reasonable, or it was believable to me, or because I know what this guy wants, this is why he did this. You can do that. You can just react.
Yeah,
and
drop the adversarial nature.
Yeah.
Well, another thing I would like to point out is that having a puzzle feel natural in the world is helped if the discovery of the puzzle itself is something where you don't have to have the players try to do a logic puzzle in and of itself just to find the hints to what the actual puzzle is.
Yeah.
That was one of those problems with that one earlier. It's just like the nature of the puzzle was so unnatural that we didn't even realize what he was wanting us to do until he basically told us.
All right. I think we're going to kind of wrap that up there. Hopefully we'll hit a little bit more on the exploration as time goes on here. But puzzles are something that definitely make people feel ways about things one way or the other. I'll be the dissenter for just a moment here. I absolutely will make encounters tailored towards a player at my table. That doesn't mean that player solves it. That doesn't mean that player engages with it the way I intended, but I absolutely will do that. And I personally see no issues with that. I still maintain the verisimilitude of my world. I still maintain, player agency, character agency, if you want to go with that term. I know everybody gets butthurt over terms, so I don't know terms I'm allowed to use today. But
could I ask a question on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you give us an example of when you say you design an encounter for a specific player? Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. If I notice that a player, I haven't run long-term games in a while, so I'm going back into my noodle here. But I noticed that one character is playing a medic, and for whatever reason, they don't have a lot of medic work to do, and he's not able to really explore his character. I'll run an ER episode where all of a sudden there's been a fire in the town, and they've got to start saving some people. Usually the way I do it is in terms of social encounters, because that's usually the person that's the most complaining about that. In terms of like, the bard wants to sing more, or the diplomat actually wants to get into true negotiations, things like that. I tend to run into that a little bit more in my experience, but I absolutely, if you three are at my table and Crispy's the combat character, Mar Hawkman is the talkie character, and Squirrel-Hermit is the silent, well, we'll go with the thiefly type. I will make sure that there is something in the adventure for each of you. Now, whether you bite is on you. Whether you solve it, if that's the wrong word, but whether you make it through it, it's not an automatic win. Just because you tried to negotiate with the aliens to secure the rights to a planet doesn't mean you actually will get it. But maybe you did it in a manner that at least, first of all, you enjoyed it, but we can come back and explore it again later. Maybe with a little more crispy, shooting a couple people first involved. I don't know, but the idea is, for me, I will tailor things. I don't write adventures. I do not do that. I don't run modules and I don't write adventures. I write generic outlines of what I think will be coming up, just so I can jog my memory or have a couple NPCs in my head. But long story short, if I write down this line of, hey, this is what I think the player's going to do, you're going that way. Right. But I will quantum ogre certain things if I think it's important for the character, because Players don't know. And 2, it's not about combat. It's about, I want your experience in this world to lead in the direction that you guys as players are trying to get to without throwing these like puzzle stumbling blocks in the way. Ha ha, I fooled you. I throw enough red herrings out there. You don't need me to do more of that. You see what I'm saying?
I
So
think I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. I would just say for my slightly different take, but
Mhm.
for my take, what I would say is that I think that the game is improved if the conflicts that you're thinking of are varied. Uh, but I personally don't go so far as to say this conflict is targeting or specifically directed at one character or another, but a
Sure.
variety of conflict, whether that, that's really good, because then you are hopefully touching on of all sorts of different abilities that may come in from the characters and may draw in players that are now interested in this. Who knows? Maybe Squirrel-Hermit secretly wants to have a political intrigue game on top of or in addition to his dungeon crawl. And if that's the case, having a variety of conflicts is going to allow that to happen. There we go.
There you go.
I'm unarmed in a duel of wits, so you have an advantage there.
You know what
my
that's
Hawkman
from,
and
don't you?
Squirrel-Hermit, any final comments on that before we go on?
Mm,
I want to give you a chance to say your piece before we move, but
No,
it is time to go
I
to
get
the
what
next.
you're saying, Max. I get what you're saying. A lot of the games that we play and that are played, they do suggest, give each character a moment to shine with their specializations or their talents or whatever, and that that is fun. I mean, it's there. It's valid. It's just you try and not make it blatantly obvious. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
no one knows how to. Like no one knows first aid, and there's a first aid situation, and
Also,
that character's the only one that gets to do it.
also,
You try.
don't go so far that it becomes a solo adventure during the moment to shine. That one I've seen pop up and just
What it
well,
was elaborate on that a little bit more if you can quickly, please. But elaborate on that a little bit more because I may agree with you, but I may not.
I mean, like there's the old Netrunner example where when the Netrunner starts net running, everyone else basically just has to wait for him to get done with it.
Okay, that's Decker. Not
Did we lose him?
did a pretty good job of that compared to Shadowrun. But yes, I get your point. Okay, yeah, no, there is. I mean, again, it's going to depend on the game you're playing. What's that?
You said that's Decker, not Netrunner, and then whatever sentence you said after that got lost.
Oh wow, okay. No, I was saying that's a Netrunner, not a Decker, because Cyberpunk handled that much better than Shadowrun did. But I do get what you're saying, where it's basically turn away from everybody else. I hate to say this, and the 4D guys are going to really hate this, but I don't have a problem with that, unless the caveat being. Because remember, I believe that there's a balance between game and role play. Anybody who's watched me role play will probably think I'm a 4D person because I really get in the headspace of my character and I play my character. But I believe that there's a balance. This is still a game. And so game aspects are welcome to come out. That's just my way of my way of running it. With that said, you don't do it for the whole session so everybody is sitting there wishing they'd gone to McDonald's and gotten something to eat instead.
So
there are ways to balance
that's
that.
I have
exactly
to
what I was
jump in here,
getting
Max. I'm sorry. We in our style, or my take on it is, if the party splits, the party splits. I'm happy for that. Like
Oh, really? Okay.
absolutely. I am not, and I would go so far as to say most of those that are in this style. I mean, you can't speak for everyone. Everyone's different, but for me at least, I'm excited when Mar Hawkman is doing something completely different than Squirrel-Hermit and they're separated and they're doing other things. I'm totally fine with that. That could last the entire session. Totally fine.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that most of the folks I've talked to and will say, your philosophy aren't
the
for
difference
that. Let me rephrase that though. I want to be clear. I'm not talking about separating the party. I'm talking about like ignoring somebody, like
okay. So
or maybe that's not the right word to use, but where somebody's sitting around not doing much. There's more of a back
Right.
and forth, like, okay, you've had your time. Let's, what are you doing while he's doing that? What are you doing?
Well,
So my
what I
solution to
was
that,
getting at with my example was that it's like one person's the only one doing something for like 15, 20 minutes. Everyone else is going to get bored and like get a coffee or something.
yeah. So my solution to that, and that is an
What?
issue. Yeah, my solution to that simply is that all turns should be relatively short. So if the turns are short and Squirrel Hermit and I are doing a thing, just him and I, then we should have enough time back and forth that I can then, okay, I just pause that. We're going to come right back to it. I go to the other players so they're not just sitting there. So I don't mind splitting the party. That's totally fine. But my solution, because I also don't want people just sitting there not doing anything, is that I'll just go from that to I'll rotate to the other, what are the other people doing? And I, because turns are short, then it's not a big deal to do that. If turns are really long, then you're absolutely right. It's going to be 15 minutes, just Squirrel Hermit. He's the only one playing. Everyone else is just there spectating. But a little bit of it, yeah, no problem. I got no problem with it at all.
See, man, I wish we had more time to talk about this. I'll just finish up with this. If you watch Bear's first episode of Codex Albana, where this is our first session. I think he calls it session 0, as a matter of fact. I think I spent the first hour and 45 minutes waiting for my turn, so to speak, as the other characters were role playing. But I was so engaged with what they were doing as characters, I absolutely didn't care. Now, there is I hate the word pacing, but I'll just use it. There is a pacing issue. There's like, if it's just boring or somebody's just trying to spend 45 minutes haggling over rope, that's a joke I use here. Yeah, that's absolutely a problem. But when it's verisimilitude with the world and things are happening with the world and I can visualize that world, sitting around waiting does not matter to me as long as I haven't lost the opportunity to be my character during that. Let's say like I'm actually there, so to speak. Other than that, I'm invested in the game. And if you're bored, you can GTFO my table. Like that's generally the way I look at it. But with that said, I do hear what you're saying. And yeah, typically speaking, nobody should be waiting an hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes. But there are times, and I've run into times as both a game master and a player, when that's happened. And as long as it's organic to the world and I'm invested, I don't have a problem with that. I don't bring out the Game Boy, as we talked about one of my old players did. I don't start bugging everybody else at the table like, hey, can you believe this happened? No, I'm invested in the world and the game.
That is polite and respectful. Real quick, back in the day when we did like our 8, 10, 12-hour mega sessions when we were younger, if the party was ever split up when I was running, whoever was not in that scene, you leave the room, go for a walk, get out of here. Your character's not here, you're not here.
For us, it was smoke breaks. But yeah, they did that. Yeah. Absolutely. You know, yeah. Yep. Okay.
But that's for the younger years.
I do have to move on here, and I apologize if you guys wanted to respond to that, but I have a hard cutoff on the show at 2.5 hours, and we still have 2 segments to get to. Well, technically 3. So I'm going to move forward with this, and you know what? We can talk in the after show. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should take my time to talk in the after show instead of doing this now, where we have the members only portion after the 2.5 hour break. So before we get into that, a couple of things. Again, I see a lot more people in chat. Thank you very much to everybody who's watching. We are looking for more panelists, as I said at the beginning of the show. If you're somebody's interested in being a panelist on here, go to the Discord link in the description, and maybe there's an episode for you. I'm looking for diverse panelists. I've got a topic coming up where it's basically OSR versus 5e kind of stuff, and I'd really love to have somebody prominent in the old school style of play versus somebody who's in the new school style of play on there. And it's not a debate so much, but a conversation to get that kind of energy and information out to folks. So but many other topics, many more to come. I post them about 2 months in advance. So yeah, look forward to having more diverse panelists there. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to all of the panelists' channels. Your support keeps conversation going and helps us to reach more tabletop RPG fans. In segment 2, we're going to be talking about player choices and outcome branches. That probably triggered somebody right there. But however, before we do that, let's take a look at your super chats and some member comments. Well, we have a new member. Thank you very much, Sergeant Mushroom.
Nice.
Appreciate that. I don't know. I like that icon too, a little Mario thing. Full Metal Dragon says, I hate puzzles and riddles in RPGs. They're explicitly intended to challenge the player and not the character. I think you guys answered that pretty well, but do you have any quick comments on that?
They can be fun if they're not set up as a Mensa kind of thing. If it you got to keep it lighthearted a little bit. You don't do it again. This was back in the 50s or 60s. It was my grandmother's book. This is just for sitting on the can. Want to do a quick little like quiz or a little fill in the blanks or something. It's nothing. If the player doesn't want to do it, well then roll the die.
And I agree. I would say that let the mechanics do some heavy lifting here. Let the dice help when it comes to puzzles.
Well, one thing someone told me years ago about this is the campaign focused around solving this puzzle? If the campaign does not hinge on solving this puzzle, then why are you taking more than 5 minutes with it?
Okay. We got a $50 super chat from Law Dog. So let me get my alcohol ready. My wife was already asking me this week, what kind of alcohol do you want next? She won't spend money for Glenlivet, but oh well. Let me pour this. There we go. Oops, a little more. There you go. I need to be drunk for these guys. No, I'm kidding. All right, so Law Dog says for $50, thank you very much for the $50. Finally made it home. Was listening on the drive. Good to see Crispy, the 4D ambassador, back on GMI. Oh, and Max, drink, sir. Thank you, Law Dog, sir. I am going to drink. Which glass is this? Oh, I don't know. Got a new one apparently. But there we go. So this is to Law Dog for $50.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good to be back.
That's awesome.
All right. And moving on here. And Law Dog gifted 5 memberships. What does that mean for folks out there? Well, the quick version is this. When the show ends for the rest of the folks, you now get to watch for an extra, probably about an hour. It all depends. These guys don't have to stay for it, but usually people do. You also, instead of having access to 2,000 videos, you have access to about 5,000 videos. Some of that probably I really wish I wasn't on the internet anymore, but whatever. Going back up to 10 years. So you can see old Max, I think. I don't think I hid all of those. But anyway, a lot of videos on there for you to watch. And of course, as we try to do more members only stuff, you'll have access to that. But thank you very much, Law Dog. And if you were one of the beneficiaries of his member gift, please thank him. All right. Let us now move on to our next segment, which covers player choices and outcome branches. And of course, let's meet our second panelist here, Mar Hockman. Who are you? What content do you create? And what is your tabletop RPG experience?
I've actually played a variety of role-playing games. Star Trek Adventures is one I've done a lot with, Hyperborea, 5th edition, and few others like Call of Cthulhu and, Black Hack. Uh, I don't feel like you're trying to name every single one, but, one thing I do on a YouTube channel is I go over things from old Star Trek episodes that you could put into a game if you're actually playing Star Trek Adventures, because there's a whole bunch of plot devices they used in old Star Trek episodes that never got brought up again, ever. So, like, that's actually one of the things that's interesting in the newer Star Trek is they're going back and finding old races and what have you that people almost forgot existed, and then using them. It's like, "Huh, someone actually read the wiki and found something that was interesting."
All right.
But yeah,
Well,
it's
I'll go
fun.
good. Let's ask you the question. How do you decide how many branches or solutions to build for a non-combat encounter? And what have you learned about keeping those branches manageable without closing off real agency?
Well, the number one thing to remember about giving players actual agency instead of a multiple choice question is no plan survives contact with the enemy. Your players are going to do something you didn't think of because you don't actually have a full grasp of what they could potentially do because you can't anticipate their actions ahead of time. It was like that thing I mentioned earlier. Is like how literally no one in our party thought that opening that chest was a good idea. He was expecting someone to just open it. It's like, oh, hey, there's loot in here. Let's open the box. And everyone was like, no, that's a trap. Everyone. but he just didn't expect that. And like improvising to change the outcome, like for example in that one, is that he could have had it so that when all of the party was in the room and we're all standing on the same floor that's rigged to collapse, that once the entire party was in the room and we were just standing around talking about whether we wanted to open the chest, he could have just said, "Oh, by the way, the floor just collapsed," or less straightforward and simplistic, obviously. But y- you know, if the party doesn't open the chest and he needs the party to fall through the floor, he can just have the floor collapse. And it's like, but that's what it was. I was going to say is though, it's like if you have a non-combat scenario that the players aren't going the direction you want them to, you can abort the encounter and do something different. You don't need to. Well, like I was saying, that guy was very, very intensely focused on this is the way I want the combat or non-combat encounter to end. And when it didn't go his way, he just was not very good at thinking of alternate solutions. And like branches, like having an actual like number of countable branches is something I really personally wouldn't worry too much about, but I would have like several different possible avenues players can go through. Not which mm, it's very dependent on the scenario. I use that example as something I already brought up, so don't have to completely explain the whole thing. But
I mean,
uh,
I get what you're saying in terms of not you can't cover every branch, but like for I mean, we haven't talked about was it exploration encounters much yet, but if you have an expert, whether that's a random encounter or you come across something weird, what if you got the pit, you've got the talking tree, you've got there's the rainstorm that comes in that nobody was prepared for because you didn't think that was happening, whatever. um how the players react to that, I might have a couple of things ready to go. If they seek shelter, I've got some things in my brain where I think they might go. If they go somewhere else, fine, I have to deal with that. I'm the game master. If they decide we're just going to walk through, maybe I decide, you know what? If they decide that they're going to power through it, well, I'm going to give them a -1 to all their rolls for the day. But I'm prepared, so to speak, to think about that. Like I like to bring up a couple. So for me, the magic number is 3. Sometimes it's more, a couple times it's less, but it's usually around 3, sometimes up to 5 different ways that I'll handle a situation depending on what they are doing at that time. Now, a social encounter, you could succeed at the social encounter, you can completely fail at the social encounter, or you could come to some sort of impasse. And to be fair, there are a couple other things in between you could be smart enough to come up with. So that's what I'm talking about. Branches was maybe a bad word, but I have to find a universal word for these questions for
I don't
everybody of
hate
all
the word.
types of types.
I
So
think the word's fine. And I think depending on what you're doing, I'm going to defend the use of some preparing of a branch. I think it makes sense. So
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes a bit of a surprise for me that wants to just react to what the players are doing. But if I'm doing an exploration conflict, I better know what's in terms of branches. I should know what's in the cardinal directions at very least. Like you should be prepared enough to know if they go south, it's this. If they go north, it's that. I prefer to have that rather than regardless of what direction you go, this is the next thing you hit. So
one
sure,
thing
yep,
that
I agree.
what one thing that I was thinking, or wrote down as one of the things I hadn't gotten to yet is that you should always have planned out what the important things are. It's like, what are the things that your players might encounter while they're wandering around in this crypt? You have a list of things for them to find. You don't just like roll dice and then make up something completely random, unconnected to the story you're trying to tell. You you make a list of things for them to look for, and they might not find all of them, but uh, it also means you're not like, just like making crap up at random.
I I, I hate to be a contrarian,
Mm.
Hawkman, and you seem
No,
like a
we want
reluctant.
that.
So I am absolutely okay with preparing via random. So what I mean by that is you've got Squirrel-Hermit here. I'm sure he's aware of the, as we all are, the old school style where you use generators to help react. Like the basic expert's big on this. He does a lot of very minimal prep so that he can kind of roll in the moment and have something exist. I prefer not so much of rolling in the moment, but I will do that. And then that exists. And then that might lead to something that doesn't require a random roll. But I don't think that GMs are I think GMs that go into it saying, "Hey guys, we're building a story together," I think that leads to burnout. So that's my position on it. Is I think that when I'm preparing so-called branches, I will absolutely use Kevin Crawford's books, World Without Number, Stars Without Number. I will absolutely use those generators. Sandbox generators.
Misunderstood my point.
Yes, there it is. Tome of Adventure Design. I love that one.
So good.
Well, what my point was is that for your specific dungeon, you can create your own randomized generator that's
100%. I agree with you.
Yours.
Yes.
That's 100%. What I was trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. But if we were doing some prep before the game is what I'm saying, that, yeah, I do think that you probably need to have some things already in terms of branches, depending on the conflict or the nature of the conflict. Where I will not do branches or decision trees or whatnot is when it comes to my characters. What I'll do with my characters, again, I'm the GM in this scenario. I'll spend time thinking about what is the personality of this character. So how do they react to failure? How do they react to, obstacles? What do they really want in the short term? What do they want in the medium term? What are they looking for in the long term? And how desperate are they for those things? That's as far as social encounters go, that's all you need. You just need that. And then what happens will be reaction to what the players are doing with their characters.
This is what I used to have sitting at my desk years back. I bought a big, this is only a half size. It's been cut in half. 1-inch square paper grid, and I would sit down and write, I don't know if you can see, possibles. What I would think of, how the world would react, and I would check them off if the party was in the wheelhouse or, a possible outcome came about. What that helped me do was keep in the wheelhouse so I'm not thrown completely off guard because players, they don't always do what you think they're going to do, as we said before.
Never.
But it keeps you in the wheelhouse of the possibilities, so it's easier as a game master to fly, off the cuff. And it keeps track because, in a living, breathing world, I write down in the game time, it was 13 weeks this happened. Mm-hmm. I used to keep a calendar, and I always did. Weather is great. I roll weather randomly, not that time at the table at the session. I have it randomly generated for like the calendar year in game. I've had floods happen. I've had storms happen. And there's a non-combat encounter. Like, what are you guys going to do? Like, dude, it's, everyone, you lived here. There's going to be a flood. You see the waters rising. The rain hasn't stopped for 2 days, and there's no signs of it letting up. Like, how are you going to deal with this? That kind of thing.
Okay. Nobody wanted to respond to that?
Well, I think it's great. I love the weather thing too. I think weather's important. And you should be, really, if you took all of that time that you're fretting about making an encounter and you instead put it back into making detailed notes as to what happened in the session right before, you're going to have so much more material to use than if you had just tried to make encounters.
Yep.
If you make very detailed notes as to what happened, that is your prep for the next series of conflicts. Conflict will come from that.
One of the things that I personally like the idea of is to take like a bunch of like 3 by 5 cards or whatever, and write down several different things on them, and just like have those as options uh, that you can use when it's time to have the players do something more. Which depending on what kind of thing it is, but because like different parts of the game world, you just like write down what they are on the 3 by 5 card, so you can just like whip them out. And when like the players go over the hill, look at what's on the other side of the hill. You have a card for that.
I love using index cards. I also use index cards extensively. It's an easy way for me to put secrets, motivations, enemies, friends on an NPC card, and then I can keep track on that card. It's easy for me to pull that back up then and see, okay. And then my prep is just looking at all the things that have happened and asking, and therefore what? Or,
Mhm.
and so what? So this is what they're doing. This is what happened. This is that conflict preparation. And I don't think that it's helpful to start with the idea of conflict or combat preparation versus non-combat preparation. You're just looking at the conflicts that have arisen. It's up to the players to decide if their characters are going to take it to combat or if they're going to try to seek a different outcome. And that's my approach on this. I do think that that it's important to understand as a game master, understand how your world would logically and rationally within its own internal logic, how would it respond? That's going to allow you to react in the moment so much better. Like what Squirrel-Hermit was saying already. He's already given thought to what has happened. What is that? It's the whole butterfly wings in Brazil and a hurricane across the world. Like it's that kind of cascading effects. That's your prep, game master, is just to look at what the players have done and then play the what if. What if that causes this? And what if that causes that? And then all of a sudden you'll find that you have a wealth of conflicts from which to draw, rather than saying, okay, well, I guess it's time for my next session. I need to have 2 combat encounters, and I need to have 1 non-combat encounter, and I guess it's time for a social encounter, and oh, heaven forbid it's a puzzle encounter. That's tedious to me. But what's fun is looking at what's happened already and then just thinking, okay, and so what?
So I'm gonna expand on that for just a moment, because there's one thing that Crispy said that I absolutely love, and I'm just gonna reframe. I'm gonna reframe what he said, though, and just in terms of consequences.
Oh, that sounds like straw man.
Consequences don't have to be an immediate result.
Oh no!
I love callbacks that happen. So we used to play every week for 8 hours. So understand that time frame. It could be 3 or 4 months later when they've forgotten about stuff, and all of a sudden the callback happens, and they're like, "Oh crap! Yep, it just caught up with you guys." Things like that, or the vice versa. Maybe they made an unusual ally they weren't prepared for at the time. The point is the consequences, even if it makes you, the game master, angry or really excited. Hold on a second. Not all consequences have to be immediate.
Oh, heavens no.
No, in fact, sometimes when they have time to cook, if you leave that in the oven, so to speak, you just
put them in the conflict crock pot, baby. Let it
and you
simmer.
just let that ripen until it is just ready. And when it happens, it's just great. I have if I may, just really quick, I had an example of this. We were playing a game, had a player that thought he had devised the perfect way of finding every evil person around him as playing a cleric. He would just cast a spell that would only do fire damage if the target was evil, right? So he's like, "Oh, this is great. I'll be able to find the ne'er-do-well in this caravan by just casting it." Okay, so it worked. It worked. But the problem was, when the guy was immolated that he cast it on, he hadn't done anything visibly wrong to anyone else around him. And so now it's just the cleric's word saying, yes, but he would only be consumed by fire if he was evil. But the rest of the caravan says, and the caravan master says, well, yes, but he didn't do anything. You haven't provided any proof. All right. Fast forward 4, 5, 6 sessions later, there's a summons and a legal proceeding and an accusation of murder from someone's widow who was immolated without having done anything wrong in sight of anyone else. Now, he was an evil guy. The spell wouldn't have worked otherwise. But from the lay people around, all they saw was the cleric immolated someone who was just standing there, and then said, oh yeah, he was evil.
My
but
personal thought with this,
what about the horses being scared?
Yeah.
What about the horses being scared and bolting? What about the carriage on fire? What about the children? You know, what about
what about the caravan master? He's like, well, you can't just go around burning up my hired hands. And that led
I
to
lost 2 carriages because the horses were
I
scared.
have a very specific thought here, and this is simply that what makes you think that only one person in the caravan was evil?
well, yeah, and the point was simply that the rest of the people there aren't clerics. So all they saw was someone using magic to burn someone alive who had now has a widow and mouths to feed, like they had kids. Yeah, he's
And it's also possible that the cleric got the wrong guy because his only method of targeting the spell was, this guy is evil.
Yeah.
Okay, but did he do the thing that you're hunting someone for? Because you don't even know who you're hunting.
There was no evidence. And since there was no evidence,
1 sec.
the only accusation is the cleric who also was the executioner and burned the guy to a crisp.
I'd be upset about losing my horses and carriages because I got scared of this guy spontaneously combusting.
So, but the consequence didn't happen immediately. It was like, oh yeah, great, I did the thing. Later on, it was big consequence, very big consequence.
Nope, that's awesome. Yeah, no, you take notes like that, like you said, like I used to do. I when I was running weekly 8, 10, 12-hour sessions, I was very, very meticulous, and that led to so many branches and avenues and paths. It was a spider web of adventure. There was so much going on, and
Love it.
the table loved it. It brought immersion.
Yes. It brings more immersion because it's something that's developed unique at the table because of the actions of the player characters. I didn't start that session thinking my story requires a legal proceeding where the archbishop of this cleric's faith is going to have a council, a legal proceeding to defend his cleric's actions. I didn't start that with any of that. I didn't have any preconceived notions beforehand. What I did was I had the world react in a way that was believable, and the table loved it.
It was organic for everyone.
Even the player whose cleric was now in hot water. He's like, oh dang, I totally didn't think about that. But yeah, it makes sense. And now we're in court, and the widow of the evil dude that was, again, evil, but without any evidence other than just the cleric's word. And the crying kids.
He burned his evidence because he could have put the guy on the stand and said, "Let me cast my spell. See, he's evil." Nope, he's dead. He's gone.
He's dead.
Another thing that I was kind of getting at earlier before I got interrupted was, so someone knocked on my door. Anyway, one thing to think of here, though, is the cleric certain that he isn't missing someone? Because, like, with that thing is that because of the fact that he doesn't actually know who he's looking for, he might end up killing the underling of the real bad guy, so that the real bad guy knows exactly where he is and now is plotting to get revenge.
Yeah, he's putting a red flag on himself. Saying, "Hey, sure. I'm," kind of like the a Ravenloft thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the big bad guy knows if you're good. Well, he's doing that by poof.
So that story I told you started with a non-combat encounter, an investigation. And because of that investigation and how it went, I was able to react to that that led to all sorts of other things happening. It branches out on its own. Don't force it. Don't try to force the branch in a certain direction. Take your energy and your excitement and your creativity, pour it into your notes, and then build off of that. Build off of that, because that's the key for having this feel real instead of contrived.
The last session is some of the more stronger roots for the next.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I don't think that new game masters are wise to try to plan out their campaign. Just plan out the next session. That's it. And then from there, the next session after that. And from there, the next session after. I'm not saying that you don't plan the conflicts in terms of these characters of mine have long-term goals. No. My NPCs or my GM PCs, I don't like NPCs because it says non-player character, but I'm going to play the heck out of those things. Like, I am absolutely going to role play those. And so I'd say non-heroic character, because they're mine. They're not the heroes. They're my guys. I'll plan out what they want. But again, back to that index card idea, if you have your NPCs on an index card or something you can track, their goals are changing too, because the player characters, the heroes, were able to frustrate them on this. That might change one of their goals. Maybe they weren't able to stop them. And so now they've progressed and their goals have shifted. They're a little closer to their long-term goal. Maybe the long-term goal is accelerated. So I do think there's some value in that. What there isn't value in, as a new GM or a game master that's struggling with burnout, don't try to script out, okay, I've got the next month planned. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's going to be too restrictive, and you're going to end up burning yourself out. And you'll just be, yet again, you'll be returning to all the familiar sources, not this source, not GMI. GMI is going to give you actionable things you can do. Those other guys out there on the YouTubes, they're going to give you the same 7 lists regurgitated again and again and again.
I mean, what I would do instead of like actually like writing out a full like blueprint is like have a list of things that you would like to have the players do, and like make like 3x5 cards with the various NPCs that you would like for them to meet and are going to seed into the world. They might not meet them, or they might do something else, but you have that available for when they're doing things so that you can pull out whatever matches what they're doing.
Well, you guys have heard me say this before. I love my timelines, and I like a bit of prep. I enjoy that as a game master. I enjoy some of my prep. Now, I've had to learn over the years how much is too much. When am I going too far? And sometimes I forget that one. I usually remember it when I'm at the table going, oh, they totally went a different direction, and I spent hours. But I tend to enjoy most of my prep. So I don't consider it work. I don't consider it problematic. It just helps me. It helps me focus into how to say. Yeah. It helps me focus as a game master, as a spirit, so to speak, of my world. With that said, I love my timelines, and I know that's not the right term. It's the term I've just used for many years. Which is, if something happens and the characters go this way, and I'd kind of planned for them to go this way, or they thought they're going to go this, whatever, just for some reason they veered off the track. I don't care. I don't care, because the world is still going to move. So when Crispy says something like, don't overplan or don't plan too far ahead, I've got many things planned way far ahead. The characters aren't touching them. It just moves another tick forward,
All right,
whatever.
So again, I have to jump in here, Max, because
I know I was generalizing what you said.
So what I'm not saying is not, I don't think that it's wrong, like, to do what you're doing. I actually like that too. So I'll think in terms of things beyond the immediate to the player character. So what's happening in the nation bordering this? Now, that might eventually come into play. So this, if you're to borrow your term, timelining, So you're
Mhm.
saying, okay, there's a war brewing between these two nations. It's going to come to a head probably in a couple years or this. There's a dragon that's moved in here. There's a drought to the south. There's whatever it is. That's fine. And I also like to do that because then it feels to me, but I wouldn't spend my recommendation to new game masters, because you've been doing this a long time. That's fine. You know the right amount for you. But I worry about new game masters coming in feeling like they have to replicate what Squirrel-Hermit has built over years and years and years, and they end up sitting down and trying to create a massive setting, and they spend hours and hours, and they end up with this 100-page of this setting book. But I wonder if their time would have been better spent staying more proximate to the heroes themselves.
Yep, I agree 100%.
And not getting completely lost in the wind. I'm not saying that I'm against what you're describing, that, oh yeah, this is happening in the world here and this is happening. No, I think that's a good idea. Just don't try to recreate what Squirrel-Hermit has done.
So what you're saying is people don't need World Anvil.
They don't need World Anvil. No, you don't need it.
You don't need it. It's fun and useful, but you don't need it.
Start close. Because then the game is about what the heroes are doing instead of your amazing world building. I'm happy for you that you've developed new languages and you're going to dethrone Tolkien as far as fantasy is concerned, or whoever it is. But that's not the game.
Start with that one.
You know what I also like?
It's a great non-combat. Great non-combat. In a couple hours, 4 you can play. Great. Social, great. Start with that. And then you make a character based out of this game, and you go from there. Trust me, folks. Trust me.
If you just want to throw in a weird written script, there's so many dozens that people have already created. And also you can actually just pull up something from the real world that most people simply have never looked at. Like, do you know what Tagalog writing looks like? Would your players recognize Tagalog writing if they saw it?
Mine would.
I have one that would too, actually.
But that's because I deal with the military.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one script that I've tinkered with a few times is Glagolitic. It's from Eastern Europe that got mostly replaced by a mixture of Cyrillic and the Latin alphabet, but it's technically still a living language, and thus you can have the whatever character sets are actually programmed into several computer fonts to actually type in Glagolitic because it's technically a living thing, although it's so rarely used that almost no one actually reads it.
Well, I want to make sure we keep this on the encounter, the aspect of encounters. Anything, because I'm looking at the time here. Yeah, I think. Is there anything else you guys wanted to follow up with this? I had one more thing I was going to say to Chris, but I'll just wait till after. We'll save that for members only. No, it's nothing bad. I generally agree with you. It's just about me and how I used to over prep.
Well, the writing thing is something I've actually mentioned in some of my videos. Is that when you have a non-combat encounter where it's based on learning things about your environment, figuring out foreign languages could be a objective that your players have to deal with. Actually, having your players physically read that, probably not. Having their characters read it, on the other hand, sounds like fun. Because let's face it, having players actually do cryptography at your table is probably not going to be fun.
Depends on the player, I suppose. All right. I'm trying to think.
Lay it on me. Lay it on me.
Did we? No. This is actually I generally agree with you. This is something we'll talk about in the members. We got to save something for the members only portion of the show, right?
Really.
The only thing that I want to hit on more, and I understand that you might not want to dive into this, but we do have to look at other styles and aspects of play. I don't care if somebody wants to call it adventure gaming. I don't care if somebody wants to call it not role playing. Don't care about any of that. My wife. But there are going to be people out there who do adventure design, whether they're running a module or making a module or something, that they want that more adventure stuff. So let's lean into that for just a moment. Quick answers, please. based on everything you guys have said, how do you keep consequences consistent across those branches or across the adventure or across the module, especially if they do something that the module hasn't directly stated, so that players trust in the adventure design or in your improvisation capability and not just see it as some sort of improvisation fatigue or, oh God, he pulled that out of his butt and it wasn't any good. Basically, when they go off the rails, so to speak, how do you work it out in your brain to keep it consistent to the verisimilitude of that module setting, adventure, whatever?
Gotcha. If you're running modules,
just once, let Mark Hockman go first. I should have said this is my fault because we are in segment 2. Mark Hockman, that was for you to start.
Oh, wait, so sorry. What was that again?
Okay. How do you keep consequences consistent across those branches that we talk about, so the players can trust the adventure design and not realizing right away you just pulled something out of your butt that wasn't fun? How do you keep the verisimilitude?
I mean, that's part of what I was saying about how you write down the things ahead of time. It's like, it's like this is the kind of loot that you're looking for. This is the guys who might decide to hunt you down if you steal it. And that's how you get from point A to point B is one thing. And that will come up during the game. But, what point B is something that you defined ahead of time. And that's how you keep things internally consistent, is that the shape of the room doesn't change depending on how the players walk across the room. S- You know,
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah. Okay. So if you're designing this, and let's say you're not doing what I suggested, so shame on you, but let's say you're doing something else and you're going to be designing a series of encounters for your game. Then my suggestion to you, even though this isn't really what I do now, but in the past, what I would do is I would just say, understand in advance when you write out your encounters, understand what it is that is like. So a failure means this, and then go through them. So success, this; failure, that. What I would suggest now, so like to be consistent. So you say, okay, if there's going to be a failure, that's going to result in this series of events. So if you're writing your encounter, then don't try to branch too much. Just say success or failure, and then go from there. But I would not suggest that now. Again, trying to keep my response short, Max. I apologize. What I would say is just, if it's especially because most conflict arises from individuals within the world. So if that's where most conflict comes from. Not all of it, but most of it comes from that. Ask yourself when you're going through this, what does my NPC do? Like, what would their natural reaction be if they encounter failure? So what is the next step they'll take? And just focus in on that. I'm not sure I would say more than that, Max, other than if you were going through and you were trying to design a module or you're doing something like that. I appreciate modules that acknowledge that there's at least a failure success option. And then the really good modules will say if there's a no engagement option. So if you have those two, because really there should always be that. We either overcome this conflict, or we succumb to it, or we fail against it, or we don't engage with it. So what are the three things that could potentially happen from those three outcomes? It's usually one of those three things. Players didn't engage, if their characters engaged, they failed it, or they succeeded. What's the next of those branch of three? The problem becomes how far down the line you want to go, because then it's a branch of three, then another branch of three, then another branch of three. And so you can see it fractals out very quickly. And that's where you get into burnout. Like, oh man, how many of these I'm going to have to do? Like, I wouldn't. So I stand by my current advice. But if I was giving advice to someone who doesn't enjoy the hobby the way I do, I would say at least consider the 3 potential outcomes. And I gave you those 3.
This is why I was saying not to like draw out like a full decision tree, but like several vague ideas as to where it might go, because having an exact number of options for the players requires you to guess what the players are going to do. And if you don't guess properly, then they might pull out something that you just hadn't thought of. And oh, you have an option C when you'd only plan for options A and B. And trying to come up with every possible contingency means that's when you get into the 100-page manifesto of branching storyline plots that never actually come up because of the fact that your players are probably going to eh, only go through one of them, if they go through one of them at all. And yeah, it's too much speculative work. Because like having ideas as to different things where that could happen. Because like if the players are talking to an NPC, y- it's good to define what that NPC wants, what that NPC's goals are, and things like that, which will inform your ability to have that NPC react what the players do. But you're not going to just like write out specific canned responses to questions you think the players are going to ask. You just think about what that NPC would do when talking to people. Even because, well, like I say, it's just you don't want to try to get too specific.
Is he freezing or is it me?
He's kind of freezing on my end. I will apologize to Sabrina Downey. That's my niece. It's her first time watching.
Oh, hey, Sabrina. Well, that's great.
She's down in Florida. I told her I'd be live, jump in, chat.
I just visited Florida. Loved it.
So she's not really attacking anyone. She's just
no. This wasn't. No. There's a conversation going on that.
She's rooting for Uncle Jay.
As she should.
That's cool.
As she should. Good on you, Sabrina.
Sabrina, as far as I know, hasn't done anything wrong.
No,
it's just I want to make sure there's a back and forth that's going on in the chat, and I just want to make sure that I'm totally okay. And all the back and forth they want. Personally, I'm a free speech absolutist, and I wouldn't even have mods. But I learned a long time ago that if you let people get too aggressive, then nobody speaks up, and I want people to speak up in chat. So
I like what
Nun Bleeker said about it. I'm just making sure she's clear.
I like what Nun Bleeker said about it. It's like it's a great example of a non-combat encounter.
Yeah, that's right. There's a non-combat.
Yes, there we go.
Maybe combat. We'll see.
All right. Let's I gotta give time. We're not gonna have time for people to come in segment 4 if we don't move on here. So I'm just gonna start moving this forward. I think we can have a greater conversation in the members only portion. I know I have some notes written down on some things that these guys have said. Hopefully they're saying things that are helpful to you out there. Remember, folks, because I still see different people in the chat, we are looking for more diverse panels. We're looking for people from the 5e. Yeah, I'm going to say it like my Circle Lake Hell. We're looking for people from the 5e blue hair crowd. And we're also looking for the old grognards. Look at me moving my tune as role playing and give me my map board. Yeah, there you go. My white box, whatever, chainmail game. We want people from all persuasions in here in order to show that the hobby is diverse, to show that there is more than one way of doing something. And yeah, obviously people are going to say, this is what I think is the best. So if you think you've got what it takes to be on the panel, go ahead and jump on our Discord. Link is in the description, and we post them out. I post them out usually about 2 months in advance. Sometimes they fill up fast, but I do tend to bump people for the purpose of diversity. I have a whole system that I use. So it's okay, even if a panel is full.
Okay.
Well, today I had Jade going bipolar, I think, because I might need you. Oh, wait, no, I don't. Oh, wait, I might. Oh, wait, no, I don't. So yeah, I mean,
I've been bumped. It's no hard feelings. It's what he's trying to do, folks. That's all.
Want diverse panels, and I'm going to try to pick the people that I think are going to be best for the discussion. So with that in mind, please sign up on the Discord and find a panel, or just wait for one that you think is good for you. Now, don't forget to share the stream. Tap that hype button if you have access to it and help get this discussion going. In segment 3, panelists are going to talk about integrating non-combat encounters into campaign arcs. They've kind of already done that, but segment 3 always turns out that way, where it's like a lot of it was already discussed, but we're gonna package it better. So we're gonna directly focus on that. Before we do that, let's hit some of the super chats. Did I start anything? I don't think I did. Wait, we had one super chat. Mercurius, it's been so long since I've seen you, sir. I'm happy to see you here. I hope you're doing well. And for 5 Australian smoke signals, he says, what about a countdown before something apocalyptic happens, before realities merge, etc.? Mar Hockman, oh no, you're there. All I can see is your big glass. So we'll start with you on that. What are your thoughts on that?
One thing that I personally have seen done is a game with an in-universe clock. It's not something that's a standard thing, but that's the basic idea that he's going with here, is that, it's like players have X amount of time to stop the bad guy, or, the bad guy's plot is going to be fulfilled, which has been done in video games a lot more than tabletop games, I think. But the fundamental idea is good, and in tabletop games, you can also have in the thing is like the players don't actually know when the exact date is. They know that the bad guy is working on performing some sort of a ritual, but they're not actually sure how many days are left before the ritual is completed. So the game master can kind of sort of fudge the numbers if he wants to. And I mean, it sounds like a cool idea.
Okay.
I've never actually played a game like that. I've heard of people doing it, but I've never actually played one.
I love timer dice.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Crispy.
I was going to say, I think that one of the issues that sometimes arises with non-combat encounters is there isn't a time pressure. I want time pressure in every conflict. In fact, conflict without a time pressure probably isn't conflict. You should have time pressure in your exploration. You should have it in your social encounters. I don't like the idea of like pause time within a game. Like when the game world is progressing at a clip, I sometimes get some criticism from my players that I like fast. So I like the game world to be constantly in motion. So I love the idea that some apocalyptic event is coming, and if this is coming and it's going to arrive, it may arrive sooner than expected. That puts immediately every conflict has another layer on top of it. It's another dimension. New game masters don't ever allow, well, again, this is coming from me and I'm aggressive this way. Don't allow your players to strategize after the monster has attacked. They're eating someone while you're talking about, like, the monster's already devoured the bard, of course, but then it's going to the next person in the party. You don't have time to say, hey guys, think maybe we could do this and we could do this. No. I don't allow that. I don't allow that at the table. My players already know before we start, look, if you're going to be doing some planning, it's going to have to be in character. And when things happen, when rocks are falling, is not a time for you to press pause. If you wanted to do what is that called? Save scum. You could go and do that in a video game, but yes. This is not a video game. This is a simulated world. We're all pretending this world exists. In the real world, when you're having a car chase, you don't have time to be talking about, well, maybe we should go there. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about this? There's no time for that. There's no time for that. So I really love Mercurius, or I'm getting your name wrong.
Yeah, it's my your trumpet, yeah.
My Your Trumpet, I think you're absolutely that. What about that? I would add that to every conflict. Every conflict that I think of, I'm looking for the time pressure. where is the time pressure going to come from here? And it might be the time pressure could be there's an opportunity cost for this that closes other opportunities that you could have had. So that also is a method of putting some pressure on them, some tension on that. So anyway, love it.
Squirrel, any comments you got?
Well, as far as time pressure, yes. I mean, in social conflicts, non-combat encounter, you have to carry the pace, the conversation. You have to have that pressure. I know this is about non-combat, but for new GMs, if you want to get into this kind of rhythm when combat happens, and you want to all have a sense of rules mastery, whatever, and it's your turn, whatever, and discussing. I usually do the 3, 2, 1. You're done, and if you don't get it done by 1, next player.
And if you get it done on 1, you feel apparently really bad about yourself.
Well, and what I would say is to new GMs, and we're talking about
that's just something. But yeah, especially social, like the world is moving, it's heaving, it's breathing, it's moving forward. The war that between the two kingdoms will happen within a year. We've been in this game, in game time, for 3 months. Well, guess what? It's happening in 9 months. Whether you guys are trying to avert this war or it's just going to happen and you're in a different nation and that's going to spur other avenues and branches, combat or non-combat.
Luke of DM Lair often complains, and he and I have our differences of opinion, but he often complains of social encounters as just meandering talky. And I'm not going to say he doesn't have a point. I think he does have a point. If you're thinking about social conflict or a social encounter that's going to involve dialogue, here's my suggestion. Everything that the players say, you have to set this expectation. Everything the players say is in character. If this is going boring, then why in the world aren't you playing your NPC as being, look, guys, I don't have time for this. I got things to do. I'm not going to sit here while you try to convince me to sell all my rope for whatever it is, this like the goblin's head that you're going to, I don't care that you think that's a good idea. I got other customers. Get out of my shop. Like I would say that too many social encounters or negotiation encounters have the most patient NPCs that would never exist in real life. Make your game masters consider your NPCs as having other things to do and other people to talk to than just the heroes that are trying to get what they want. Like I don't think that it's benefits to treat non-combat encounters as slower than combat encounters.
No, that keeps the pace. It keeps the pressure.
Keep things going. Yeah.
Edge of your feet. Let's move. Let's go. Up.
The way I used to do that is I'd be like, okay, we need these negotiations done within the next 30 days. It's going to take you 7 days to travel there so we can have some environmental conflict, as we'll use your term for that one. Plus, I need you to come back and report back. So you're either going to have to pay a runner or you're going to have to come back with the news yourself, either way. But that gives you like 2 weeks to resolve this negotiation that could save the lives of 100,000 people. So good luck with that. And if you're meandering, another thing that I like to do, and I like to for people to be in character, but I don't always have. I was in the military, and so we would sometimes play with the people that we had, and some people weren't always the strongest role players. And so what I really like, and I wish I would have done this back then, but what I like about the free league model of how to handle negotiations in a game mechanic sort of sense which also allows for role playing and that improving or causing problem situation, is treat it like a weapon attack. You don't say, I stab him in the balls and I take off his manhood. No, you roll the hit first. Okay. Then you see if it happens, right? Well, the flip side of that is do that also. I used to do this. I did this for, 30 years. running charismatic or running social encounters backward, where it's like, okay, what do you say? And then you roll the dice. Oh, you failed. Even though you probably had the most rational, like, dude, you had me joining the army and I'm the game master of the game. Well, you rolled poorly. Now, I know some people say, well, add a bonus or whatever. No, this is still backward think. Roll first and then tell me what your intent is. Your intent. Roll and then like, oh man, you failed. So how did you botch this? Talk to me. How did you botch this? That's the way I like to see it. Now, I'm sure that somebody in the comments right now is like, oh my God, no, it takes them out of character. It's still a game, and I believe in the game aspect of it.
Oh, I
now
think
that
you
we've
can do that in character. I think you can do that in character exactly how you described it. You say, Max, you say as your character, as playing your character, what the intent was of what you're doing. I, as the game master, say roll. Right? Then you roll, and according to the system we're using, it's either a success or a failure, or gradations of success or gradations of failure. And I just tell you that. And then whatever we've decided before the game started, if it's a success and you describe your successes, I'll just say success, and then you describe it, or I'd say failure, and then.
But most people do it the other way. I think it's because,
and I think it's just as in character, in my opinion, and I'm the in character aggressive guy, right?
Right.
I think it's just as in character to do it exactly how you said. I think that is absolutely fine. I don't consider that out of character at all.
Okay.
I walk up to the whatever the shopkeep or the bartender, and I start talking to him, trying to get some information, and then GM just says, "Roll." You roll. Okay, great, success. Then go on. So I don't disagree at all, and you probably thought I would, but I don't disagree with that at all.
I thought you'd disagree on the part that, well, hey, just saying, what is your intent is not role play.
I consider that in character role play. Okay. I stab at the guy's groin. Okay, roll, and weird, but okay, roll, and then
because like you can't just like do like a
you can't assume the role before the roll.
You can't do the LARPing thing of where you basically just like LARP out a novel that you wrote, and then it's like expect everyone to just play along with it where it's a role-playing game.
I haven't done any LARPing,
not just you LARPing.
It works on the opposite side though as well. You got somebody who's shy, isn't good with his words, isn't somebody you'd think is an orator, and he's just like, but he wanted to play that character or whatever. And I get some people be like, well, you shouldn't play the character. Well, then stupid people shouldn't play mages and weak people shouldn't play fighters. Shut up. And he's like, what I want to do is let's do the rope thing, right? I want to buy a rope, but I want to get it at 10% less. No, normally I wouldn't role play this out, but I'd have him roll, and let's just say that he rolls an amazing success. Like, dude, you critted that thing, whatever game you're playing, right? Or you got 15 successes, whatever it happens to be. All right. What did you say to him? What made, oh my God, yes, here, have all the rope in the world. And, try to give him that, like, oh, yeah, I was just telling him that we need it for this cause and blah, blah, blah. Cool, let's move on. He doesn't have to give this 4-hour soliloquy or monologue or whatever about all this. Just show that excitement and put that out there. I'm totally okay with that. I want them to be more in character. That's my style. But I'm okay with somebody who's shyer or newer working in that direction through that method. All right, we are so far behind. I don't think we're going to have a segment 4 today, which means I don't think we're going to have any call-ins today because we only have a half hour left. Because I'm telling you guys, it's a hard cutoff in 31 minutes. So we've got to jump to the next segment. And I apologize to anybody who may have wanted to call in, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get 5-10 minutes. I don't know. But we can also move that over to the members only side as well. That's just the way that works. But I have a 2.5 hour hard cutoff here. So let's with that taken care of, let's meet our third panelist. The final question of the night, which asks about integrating non-combat encounters into campaign arcs. Again, they've kind of talked about this a lot already, but we'll get it packaged a little better. So, Squirrel-Hermit, who are you? What content do you create, and what is your tabletop RPG experience?
Geez Louise, I've been doing this for about 40 years. Squirrel-Hermit, YouTube, look me up, like, subscribe, check it out. I sporadically do things. I paint miniatures here and there and do some shorts and some role-playing tidbits. Yeah, that's it. Let's get this moving.
Okay. So thinking of your most successful campaigns over the many, many years, how did you weave non-combat encounters? Now, again, we're talking exploration encounters, or focusing on exploration encounters, puzzles, and social encounters into the larger adventure structure. And what steps would you give a game master who wants richer encounters without overwhelming prep?
The most recent that I could think of that ended up being very successful at the table. Excuse me. A player had one of his characters die. He rolled up two characters. They're brothers. Okay. I says, so why are they here? Why have your characters, like, give me a little bit of something on what's going on here? Because, this was done at the table on the fly. We're doing OSE, so super quick, simple, make up new characters, couple minutes. And he said, you know what? These two brothers are out looking for my former deceased character, okay, Tamarkin. He was a mage. The two brothers were two fighters. He says, these fighters are looking for this mage because this mage squelched on a dowry to our sister. Boom. I mean, come on. If sometimes you let the players kind of ad lib or just on the fly. So why is your character here? Your character, he doesn't know these characters, maybe he does or she does, maybe they do in an off roundabout way. What's going on here? Why would this character be in this town before you meet the party and get together? Like, is there anything going on, other than, oh, the world's going to end, some greater arc that the player knows, but maybe the character doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting into the character, I mean, that was a real highlight, and we really ran with that. The table ran with that. And yeah, that'd be one of my solid tips. Like, why are you here?
So answer the why, which, by the way, is an important question to ask and answer. I want to piggyback on this, though. I agree with you when it comes to social, maybe even combat with what you're saying. But how would you weave in an exploration style?
Exploration.
Encounter?
Well, I've said it before. Weather, baby, weather.
And
Well,
what kind of effect would that have on the group necessarily? Whether it's you've got an incoming hurricane because they're near the seacoast, or you've got a blizzard, or
you're pinned down. You got to make rough, tough choices. And if you're introducing a new character, boom, they're pinned down with the party. If it's just the party and there's no new characters, maybe there's a new NPC, or maybe I had a flood that happened in a small town, hamlet, village, whatever. And they were scrambling to help the town out and help the villagers. Well, in the aftermath of this flood, it was coming down from the mountain, so it was still a steady stream, but it wasn't that massive rush. Some bodies started floating down from perhaps another hamlet higher up in the mountains or whatever. Well, initially that was a non-combat encounter, but it turned out those bodies were zombies. And they started standing up. And then it was, oh, crap.
everybody loves a bloated sea zombie.
So and then it was like, well, we got to get these villagers. We got to get people, get on the roofs. We got to, even before any type of combat was rolled, skill checks and etc. and thinking. And that was a really neat one. I've used, exploration. They've stumbled across some valuable, this was the loot XP style game, but they stumbled across some old cairns that were abandoned or whatever, and they really nice armor, really okay. So they took it, they looted it, morally reprehensible, yes, but all right, no one was looking, so be it. Well, they brought it back to town and they sold it. Well, I'm going to go on the trope. The zombies, the virus, a lot of the town got infected because no one said, I'm going to wash it off.
Now, how would now all of that is great, but how do you do that without a lot of prep? I mean, I don't mind if there's a little prep, but how would you help a game master come up with these ideas or explain these ideas to a game master, but not force them or encourage them to have a lot of prep? To do it like the simplest way possible, I guess, is the way I want to ask that.
The seamless way possible, that will go back to you got to really take your notes, because that will give you a plethora of ideas from what happened last time. I mean, I'm giving some blasé answers, but yeah, does anyone else want to chime in on that? I mean, well, in exploration too, real quick, here's another note. Some games have great rules for that, like the newer One Ring game for the Journey rules. Those are neat.
I don't know One Ring that much, but I know Forbidden Lands, and I love them. I wish they were more expanded on, but that's
really
again what I have here.
Yep. Yes. And another neat thing that particular rule set has in it is the fellowship phase. If you're in a medieval setting that's, you don't hand wave weather and whatnot, well, in the winter, a lot of people don't do much. So they gather around the hearth. They seek fellowship of like minds. And then there's rules for, how you get things back and interact and whatever. And then you can do more social non-combat interactions with.
It's interesting that that's baked in, because we used to call those, like I do that at the beginning of my campaigns when the characters don't know each other that well. I intentionally save time sitting around the campfire, so to speak, so that they can be in character, role play, talk about things that their character would do or want to talk about or whatever. So I think that's interesting that it's big, because I have the One Ring, but I just haven't read it and I've had it for years. But it's interesting that's baked into it. I like that.
Yeah, the fellowship. Yeah, because again, it can add. You're in the hamlet or village, whatever, and there's time for interaction with NPCs. So now there can be, rumors or discussion or an argument or all kinds of things, kinds of things.
To going back to the concept of exploration, though, is in cases of say a dungeon crawl, is you have the monsters, you fight the monsters, but you're not necessarily going to get the loot from picking it up off the corpses of the monsters, which means that for dungeon crawls, getting loot might mean, exploring the dungeon and, which nooks and crannies actually have things that are worth stealing hidden in them. And, going that route with finding the loot as opposed to just walk in and like, hey, there's a pile of loot on the floor.
Yeah.
Just really quick to answer your question, Max, advice to a new game master or a game master that's struggling a little bit. How do you do this without being overwhelmed with prep? My suggestion would be similar to what Squirrel-Hermit was saying. In fact, I think focus in on relationships. Have your prep around relationships. Now, relationships between the hero and where they're from or where they're going, or relationships between those that are antagonistic to the heroes, or think about relationships of the. If you focus in on that and have your prep focused around relationships, then that is going, just like relationships in real life, that's going to result in lots of conflict, and conflict is always going to be interesting. So or hopefully will be interesting, especially if it's based around this relationship idea. What is the relationships here between the party, between those that they've interacted with, between the enemies and what the enemies are looking for? I think that's what I would say to someone who's like, I don't know, what do I prep? It seems like there's just too many things. Let's just start with the relationships.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, is that the end of the segment?
Mhm.
I'm
There's
asking
some
it
time
partially
pressure on
facetiously
this encounter.
because well, the good news is because a lot of it has already been said. But if I can get a little bit of time for call-ins, I will. But I want to make sure we've answered this effectively for anybody watching, especially later. So let me look through my follow-ups real quickly here, just see if something that that
There's
jumps
Sabrina.
out.
You get it, Crispy.
Yeah, thank you, Sabrina.
Because you've actually answered even my follow-ups. Okay, actually, let's use this one. This is you guys have answered this, but I want you to be a little more poignant on it. And by the way, it starts with Squirrel because it's his segment. How do you use recurring NPCs, locations, or factions as non-combat encounters to reinforce themes across the entire campaign?
Well, obviously they have to remain present to a degree with what their agenda is and what they're doing, whether it's for good, bad, ill, selfish, and that has to be tangible to the players, the characters. You have like the Church of Abla Blue Blah, and Abla Blue Blah believes in justice and honor, and well, the players might do something that might not seem so justifully and honorably, and well, you might gain the ire, the scrutiny without causing actual physical conflict. There might be rumors, there might be mumblings, there might be, they go into the tavern and they get the stink eye from the patrons, and they're like, what, we usually come here, what's going on? Well, the Justicar of the Saint Oobla Blue Blah, he was in here the other day and he was saying this about you guys. And then there goes the negotiation about regaining some honor or regaining some reputation. There goes, what? Whoa. You guys got it all wrong. Well, I mean, he's, the Justicar blah, blah, blah. And I mean, he's in real good standing. And you guys, I mean, you are, but I don't know. So
Your
now,
ability to name characters and factions is as good as mine.
well, I'm just, yeah, true.
I'm horrible at it, so I'm
Yeah,
laughing with you, not at you. That is for dang sure.
You can laugh at me. Hey, if I can't laugh at myself, I sure as hell can't laugh at anybody else. But I mean, we're not too sure. You know what? The tankard of ale that was a copper, it's going to be a copper and a or something. Just something to kind of go. Oh man, we got to rectify this situation. We got to go talk to this, Justicar of Oobla Blue Blah and figure this out. We got to explain ourselves. Where's he getting his news from? Okay. Is this, so that's one way.
And so that as far as the campaign goes, that helps to reinforce the themes of the campaign. Like, hey, you're in a realm of justice. You're in a realm that they have expectations here that you might not be living up to. And as we said before in an earlier segment, there could be consequences to this.
Yes. Right. You be like us. Well, you with your lovely wife. She's from a land of honor, respect.
That's why she's here now.
Yeah. Well, they have different standards, social standards. And you got your drunken American wandering around that place. Dude, you're an ogre. You're an ogre. And not disrespectful buffoon. What are you doing?
All right, you guys want to follow up with that?
Yeah. I have a few comments.
Sure.
Totally agree with you, Squirrel. I think the question was, if you want to have your NPCs and these other encounters and other conflicts that aren't always combat, if you want them to remain memorable, especially the social conflicts and social encounters, then don't pull your punches. Do not have the world and the the NPCs that are in it, and especially recurring NPCs that may be, villainous of some sort, those that are actively working against the heroes, against the player characters. Do not pull your punches. I've seen Victor, the guy from Holland, I think, in the chat. he creates these excellent modern accessories for role-playing games. And
Modern necessities, baby.
it's fantastic. And I love the idea that, you know what, the world should react, and not react in incremental ways, but react with the full force that it can bring to bear. And I think, I'm thinking back to a campaign we had where we had this recurring villain. And the reason why he was so memorable, this Lich was so memorable, is because he would escalate way beyond what in a believable way, but way beyond. He was trying to win his objectives. And if you want your world to feel more memorable for your table, then have your characters react as if they really do care about their objectives, and they're not going to just roll over at the first failure. No, they're going to redouble their efforts. They're going to go all in. They're in it to get what they want, as much, if not more, than the heroes are in for what they want. So that's, if you want something memorable, then I would say don't pull your punches. Go all in, especially with nemesis type characters, villains. They're ambitious. They're not just evil. They're evil plus ambition. The other thing I would say is, and we've said about this earlier, don't finish your session or don't go to bed after having a session without spending time to write down the conflicts that occurred. Make your notes. That's your prep. Write those things down and review them before you play again, so that they're top of mind. And I don't say review them with the players. No. Review them yourself so that you understand where the conflicts are.
Especially if you have secret motivations.
And
not,
there's
not everything is
I love
what
doing this. I've mentioned this in the past. I've been on here before. I like to start each game with at least 3 secrets, and those may come up, they may not come up. I'm not going to force it, but there's secrets that are happening that could happen. I like those. I like secrets for the NPCs. You get secret relationships between the actors, the various actors within the world, what they're doing, and their secret alliances. But all of that sounds great, and then nothing comes of it if you don't make your notes about what's going on. This is one of the things I love, and several of us have played online games. Max, you've done this too. The advantage of that is it creates an archive. You can go back, you can mine those for, oh yeah, that's what they were doing back in Albania session 1, right? Oh, they mentioned this. There's something you can pull from. If you don't do that, then everything's going to feel a little more scrambled and haphazard, and it's not those key individuals may not make a return when they really should have made a return.
Because it's always a bad thing to have to forget what your own story and your NPC motivations are, because so sometimes you need to go back and look at it and say, oh yeah, this is what I should have this person bring up in the next session, because that NPC totally would have thought those things about what happened.
Yep, they're great reminders, and it's kind of a paradox. You need to have structure so it doesn't feel flimsy, yet you need to be flexible without that structure breaking you.
Mm-hmm.
It just occurred to me. I mentioned Victor. I didn't say why. The reason I was mentioning Victor is because his settings make me think of something that happened in the Vampire Masquerade settings, where one of the, I don't know what they're called, I've only played it once, but I had a great time with it. One of the factions, the vampire factions, drew too much attention, and they were wiped out by precision ordnance dropped by a B2, like bomber. So it was done. And that's what I'm talking about. So I was thinking of Victor, and I'm like, well, he's providing the tools that really, because I understand it, there's ordnance there that's not really party ordnance, but it's there so that the world can respond as the world should respond. Like, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, there's a tomahawk warhead with your name on it. That's how they would actually
what was it?
respond.
Was it an entire vampire clan or a vampire coven?
It was a vampiric leadership of one of the clans. I'm not really versed on it. Someone in chat will know.
Well, because like the difference between clans and covens is like a coven is
No,
like,
it wasn't a coven. It was like clan leadership. It was like the main clan
Like the
leadership.
antediluvians and all that.
Yeah, something. It's one
I
of their
got it.
major
Look,
things.
Look, we don't have to dive into the specifics of the vampire World of Darkness genre here. We get what you're saying. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not an expert on that lore, but I just think it's excellent example that within that lore of don't pull your punches. And that's why I mentioned Victor's, because he puts there's a nuke in the game. And I love riffs for this too, by the way. There's things in there that are incredibly devastating. Well, that's because the world should push back in ways that are devastating.
Okay. Anything else you guys have for this? We may, I mean, if again, this is your conversation. So if there's more you want to say, please do. We've got 10 minutes left. Well, 9 minutes left in this. Else, we can try to sneak in one caller. If you guys want to.
I'd love to have a caller. I've never had a caller.
Okay. What were you going to say, Mahawkman?
I said, sure, let's go with the caller.
Okay. We still will have the members. By the way, the reason why I want to sneak in one now is because when we end the stream publicly, there will be a members only stream. And if you're not a member, well, you can't watch it. Well, somebody told me you can watch it. You just can't comment. We'll figure that out. I'm not stressed over it. But either way, whatever.
I told my niece to subscribe.
Well, but there's a difference between members and subscribers.
No, so, I mean the membership subscribe. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see the membership pop up.
But no, she might not, but I told her she should.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. So become members to channels you enjoy. If you just want to lurk here, that's okay as well. We appreciate everybody. Now, with that said, let's talk about segment 4 here real quickly. Then, like I said, when we get to the members only, we'll have more of a discussion there for the members, and maybe you'll even get a little more saucy. Probably not. They haven't done that yet. All right. So in segment 4, we bring you in to talk to our panelists about tonight's topic. I'll post the link to join in just a moment because we still have to get through some chat here. But I will prioritize members and super chatters. Yeah, that's just the way it works here because of time. Look, today we're running out of time. I'm really only going to have time for one person. So super chats. What did I start? Did I start anything? Hungar for $5. Thank you very much, Hungar. So I'm still lurking. Well, thank you, baby.
Yes.
I think my wife came in when you posted that, and I was doing like. It's good to see Hungar. Appreciate you being here, sir. And I didn't start anything else. I apologize, folks. But oh, look at that. Well, we now have a new member.
Wow.
Look at there you go, Squirrel-Hermit. You browbeat her into it. What the heck, man? You can't abuse people like that. Thank you very much for the membership. Really do appreciate that. You now have access to a whole ton of videos and giveaways and whatever else we do. So thank you very much. Absolutely do appreciate that. We don't give a lot to our members, but what little bit we do give is in appreciation to you guys, paying us. Let's put it that way. All right. It's time for segment 4 where you can have your say. So unfortunately, I'm gonna put it out there, but only one person's going to get it. We'll do more. We'll do more in the members only. So here are the rules. Here are the rules. Before we bring anyone to talk, the panel need to remind you of a few things. If you don't want to get booted and possibly banned, do not break YouTube's terms of service. Stay on topic. That's right. Tonight's topic is about environmental. Well, it's about non-combat encounters. Although you probably wouldn't know it from the conversation today.
Oh, come
Sorry,
on.
my bad. No. We moved into some combat stuff as well, which is good because you know what? They bleed, don't they? It's just I took too long talking about some of that earlier. Unless someone specifically super chats for more time for you, can't do that today. So I'm not even going to read that rule. There's going to be no extra time today because we don't have it. And no matter what, the show is a hard stop at 2 hours and 30 minutes. This means we may not get to everyone. So, all right. With that, the link is out there. You can join. And it's basically going to be first come, first serve. At least that's the way it looks. So
come on, folks, hop in.
Boo, yeah. Welcome to the Legion Coalition Sympathizer Club. Well, that's if she knows what the coalition is. If not, well, she'll get her indoctrination soon.
Emperor
I mean,
Protest did
everyone
nothing
joins.
wrong.
Oh, we don't get much hate about that anymore, but we used to get a lot of hate over that because Heathen Dog plays that, coalition role.
Yeah.
And man, yeah, we knew there were a bunch of Nazis. Okay. Okay. But seemed like there were some folks in the chat there that had some things to say. So let's see if they've got it. In the meantime, just in case you guys have any final words of wisdom you want to give folks out there while we wait for somebody to pop in, anything you want to put out there, please be quick, just in case somebody pops in the next 5 seconds. But anything you guys want to state. Oops, I got to get rid of that membership off the screen there. Thank you again. We'll start with Crispy. Any final words of wisdom for folks?
No, I think I've said a lot. So I'll what is that? Defer? I'll defer to the other panelists.
All right, Hawkman, anything that you got? Oh, he was so late. Nope, not me. That he just left. He said I screwed him out. All right, Squirrel-Hermit, anything from you? Any last words of wisdom or final comments?
I mean, I think we all covered it fairly well. I will say though, take those dang notes, pay attention, read those notes, let them cook in that crock pot between sessions. You'll believe me, wow. And I do medieval stuff, so use weather.
It's good. I love it. I completely agree. Concur.
Even outside of weather, I like using terrain.
Terrain, sure.
Well, terrain,
rivers that block your way, floods, like you said before. I think, or was it Crispy, or you said it? That you weren't expecting. Yeah. Rock falls that you weren't expecting. Whatever. I mean, you can come up with a lot of stuff. Tumbleweeds. Believe me, I lived in New Mexico for a while. Tumbleweeds are a thing that can.
Yeah, use the environment to your advantage for sure.
Right. Oh, we do have a caller. We're going to get one caller in today. Stand by just 1 second. I forgot. Oops, that's not what I want to do. I do have to change the layout here for this. That's not it. Yes, that is it. Why didn't that change? Oh, that's it right there. But it didn't change. Oh, because I'm dumb. There we go. Now it changed. Now we can bring in our caller. And this is probably going to be for Squirrel-Hermit. Boop. There you go.
Yes, it is. It is.
Oh, you didn't even go in the fourth spot. Look at that until Mark.
Well, no, I don't want to get in the camera. I'm a little camera shy, but
that's fine. You do not have to be on camera to be a call-in.
Yeah, I just want to say that the imagination and everything that I've learned from Dungeons and Dragons since I was little has been, I don't know, even if you don't call it that now, it's just been very imaginative, and I just love it. I love hearing about it. I've listened to you guys just now for like an hour and a half, and it's just so futuristic, and I don't know what I want to say.
So I'm taking it you've played. So as somebody who's played Dungeons and Dragons, I don't know if you're also a dungeon master. What are some in non-combat encounters that you remember? What's one or two that you really remember that shaped your experience?
I think I just remember my uncle telling me to, take on a relationship and think about what other players are doing, and really think about what's going to happen next and what's going to go on, and things like that. So I think that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for becoming a member. I hope that that honestly you get a chance to watch anything that interests you. We have a ton of stuff. We have over 2,000 public videos, and now you have access to 5,000 videos. There's got to be something in there you might like, and a whole bunch you probably won't like as well. We've experimented over the years. Let's just say, like good college students here. But Crispy and the Squirrel, do you have anything you guys want to either ask or say?
Well, I would just say I completely agree with Sabrina. I one of the main draws of the hobby is that creative outlet. And it's a place that if we're living up to the writing on the back of the cereal box, right? If this in fact is only limited by our imagination, then that's a rather unique hobby, isn't it? Like
you have a very good way of words, Crispy.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. But I absolutely do agree with you that the creativity, the imagination, that's where the memorable encounters, whether they're combat or non-combat, it's that creativity. And I think that creativity comes when you focus not so much on what the players may do with the encounter, but just the starting facts as they are. And I know we're in our last minute, so I'll just cut it off there. And thank you very much for your question and comments, Sabrina. It was nice of you to
Yeah,
join
you
and
too.
support your uncle. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Thank you.
By the way, Mr. Max, I didn't mean to full all caps that, but no, I have to end the show now. So, Sabrina, thank you very much for calling in. And since you're a member, please hang out with us a little longer, even though it looks like the show's ending. It really isn't. And look forward to talking to you again. Thank you very much.
Stick around, kid.
All right.
Love you.
Boop. There we go. All right. So, okay, I have to end the show now. We're actually going to go over time. But that's okay. We'll get through this here. So, with that said, that's it. Yeah, that's going to be it for the public portion of Game Master Insight tonight. Please leave a comment of who you believe had the most compelling, interesting, or novel position. Did you learn anything new that you may try at your table? Let us know in the comments. For those, again, members, stand by. For the public folks, the show is over. For the rest of you, it is going to continue probably for another hour or so. We'll see. But sincere thank you to everyone who supported the show with super chats, rumble rants, and memberships. Of course, all the subscribers, the lurkers, and chatters. You know, it gets a little spicy in there sometimes, but we appreciate you. Thank you very much. And finally, thank you to tonight's panelists. We have Crispy, Mark Hockman, and Squirrel-Hermit for their informative and spirited discussion. Be sure to subscribe to their channels or check out their content through the links in the description. With that, I look forward to doing this again next time.